Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview in our series for the Law Marketing Zone Group. Today, I'm very excited to welcome Regina Campbell with the Campbell Law Group of Coral Gables, Florida. And thank you so much for joining us. Can you start off and tell us a bit about your journey? I'd love to hear a bit more.
Thank you. And by the way, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I'm very happy to hear. My journey is not a typical journey for an attorney. Actually, I always planned on being an attorney, but I graduated from college. I was able to get into a business opportunity for some time, and actually, I was an entrepreneur for some time. So I became a lawyer actually later in life, so to speak.
Okay.
Yes. So actually, after having a child, and I was actually pregnant with my second child during my second year of law school. So while I was still running businesses. So yeah, I have my hands full, but
Wow. Okay.
basically, and then I became a lawyer in 2009, and kind of fulfilled one of my dreams to become a lawyer. Very exciting. I got into corporate. I always knew I would get into corporate law, but the unexpected twist was the family law. I wasn't expecting to go into family law, but through a series of different things I also went through in my own life and my own divorce, and also just difficulties that some people would bring to me that kind of combined corporate law and family law together. I got pulled into the area of law, and I'm happy to say I've been doing it for 10 years also. So it's exciting. It's amazing where life takes you sometimes, I don't
Wow.
think.
Yeah. Everything happens for the reason, they say.
Yes, absolutely. So this is where I'm at today. So basically, I'm a more practice and very happy. That's a little bit my trek. I don't know if there's something specific you wanted to talk about as far as my journey here.
Well, one of the things that we talk about in the group is what we've done in the practice during the pandemic. What changes have you made that you're going to keep as we go to a new normal, or what things are you going to get rid of? What have you used?
Well, since the pandemic, and it's amazing, I say it's a sort of a back kick effect. So in other words, when the pandemic started, we started changing, of course, immediately we were going into Zoom conferences and meetings and sort of intakes and meeting clients this way. People were very hesitant. Of course, so were my staff. A lot of my staff worked from their homes for a good, 3-4 months within the pandemic until things kind of calmed down. We're also in Florida. So Florida had at one point a really, really spike for a while. So we also keep an eye on the spikes in the local cases and so forth. And then my office manager always wanted to work from the office. He said he could not work at home with his cute little 2 dogs and his wife at home. So I understood. I was home, I have 2 kids. My son came home from college. So it was a little challenging, but Zoom or also Google Meets, whatever someone prefers, Microsoft Teams, really was a lifesaver. It was a little bit hard to get used to initially. But clients, as they became more familiar with it, it's actually still something we're going to keep for the most part. A lot of clients, whether they're out of town or just even maybe hesitant to come in and see me in person, or just travel more, it's been pretty convenient. So we're definitely going to keep the Zoom, and a lot of the court cases are still in the hearings, even though we're going to switch back to, in person. Have had to kind of pull back again with the additional last spike that we've had within the country and in Florida specifically. So people are still, one of the things that we're changing is we are doing a lot more, whether it's calls, consults, initial consults, or just meetings in general with clients, even preparations for depositions, via Zoom. And, as long as the client's comfortable with it, right? Some clients have a higher level of tech savviness than others. It's just enough. If not, I do still have every so often some people that want to come in person. And in which case I do make sure everyone's masked at the office, even though the majority of us are all vaccinated. So we take additional precautions basically in the office, but we've limited so far the in-person appearances, mostly because that's also the way the clients want it. That's definitely here to stay. One of the things that have left, so to speak, is actually reliance on Google marketing and third-party marketing platforms. It's not that I don't use them, but I use them very judiciously now. So I'm trying to build the practice more organically. And through people getting to know you, going back to the old school sort of way of referrals and sort of, getting to know people personally when I can't go to events nowadays, or even via Zoom. But those platforms seem to just not be very, their artificial intelligence software just doesn't seem to be not only extremely expensive, but they haven't been very effective, which has been a real surprise during the pandemic. Yeah, Google AdWords, for instance, was always fairly was always fairly reliable for a certain amount of either leads or contacts and traffic. But I've just found that not only have they gone exponentially more expensive, but that the leads are all over the place and they have not been so qualified, not even their, sort of local service ads. Something I had to learn the hard way, so to speak, to the point where I had to understand the algorithms a little bit better myself, because you think you plug in a certain keyword in a certain location and you should get, if someone fits that bill, it comes to you. No, that was not been the case. And then of course it's on your dime, so to speak.
Sure.
So I mean, Google AdWords, I'm not saying it doesn't work, may work, well for many other businesses. I have a lot of other clients that still use it and they say it works fantastic. I just find maybe it's just my particular market. I don't know, but I have not found it to be very useful. So I have actually significantly pushed away from it.
Okay.
So that's what has changed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is interesting. There's some areas just, and whether it's the population, there's some areas that just don't work well. But you still are focusing on getting reviews, that sort of thing for your Google My Business, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Still working on, of course, reviews, and some of the other platforms I do also get reviews for as well. And it's still very important from an organic point of view. So I've just kind of shifted to maybe concentrating a little bit on organic and of course honing in on what my target market may be and providing content for that market, right, to address those markets' needs. So yes, we still definitely still players, just Google AdWords and the local service ads have not been that successful. And I've heard something similar from many other attorneys.
It's interesting because out of the top 100 keywords on Google, 90 of them are in the legal profession, and they're the most expensive. It's just ridiculous.
Yes. I mean, I've seen some of those more used keywords. And of course, it depends on also your geographic sort of selection and your, all the other things you've kind of put in there. I know it does to some extent, but I've seen them go from like $15 to $20 a click to $86 a click, which would be fine if they were qualified. You know what I mean? Or if they were in the right area, half the time they're calling for a totally different area. I've gotten calls where they're paid ads and they're looking for a dentist. I'm like, I have no idea how you land. And it's not one, I just don't even know how they even hit me. It's not like I would have something for dentistry. You know what I mean? Anywhere like somehow across me. So there's some oddities that have been happening. And then they're looking for a completely different area of laws. When I look at, if I use a phase match, I look and see how they found me. And I'm like, that's not even close. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just might be the algorithm itself trying to pull, to get traffic. But if you're not giving me, I don't listen. I say, my office, the per click rate could be $1 million a click. If it produces 2 million, you know what I mean? Or if it produces money, but if it doesn't overall, if you have to spend $10,000 to get one client that gives you a $2,000 or $3,000 contract, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's, because it's a matter of, it used to be numbers. If you get a certain amount of traffic, percentage wise, you should, some of them should convert to clients because hopefully if they're hitting your ad, they're interested in what you offer. Right.
Exactly.
So, and of course, then, for marketing people out there, you also got to make sure you're landing. So if, you got to be careful not to, if an ad doesn't land somewhere else, if I'm marketing a business sort of service, business law service, and you land, and I accidentally throw you onto my family law page, of course, you're going to leave.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so there's always the typical marketing stuff that we have to look at. It is evolving. I do find people's interests are evolving. I also think people are discounting and Google's not maybe either it's not being clear how much it's affecting it, but all these privacy changes and settings with Apple and other platforms that you're going to start to see, I think are vastly affecting also people's ability to target market better, that particular audience. So I don't know. I haven't quite put my finger on it yet, but I could feel the change behind the scene.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that we suggest any of our clients that are doing or have done Google ads to always retarget on Facebook. If someone has been in touch with your ad or your website, you can actually retarget them on Facebook so much cheaper and because it's a smaller audience, you can use smaller budgets and be in front of them again. And that seems to work well.
Yes, exactly. So that's actually one of the changes we have. I'm learning how to maybe cross advertise across platforms using some existing data that I may have. You know what I mean? So it were, you're right. But before we were able to cast a net, and it was a little bit easier. It seems like you have layers and layers and hiding, and of course the competition is very fierce in the legal field also. It's depending on the market you're in or the type of law you're in, like personal injury, I hear they could be, hundreds of dollars per click. So, I mean, I just go, ee,
Yeah. Well, I did have a client in a very large city that the car accident attorney near me keyword was $980 a click.
You see? Yeah.
Just phenomenal.
And if you also have that near me, if you did car accident attorney, it's probably a little cheaper, but near me, that means it's like a more likely person that's interested immediately. So it becomes a more valuable keyword, and it probably just jumped up $200 per click just for those two words, near me.
Exactly.
So,
Incredible.
it's just a matter. And the one thing I can tell you is, we have to become very adaptable. We're trying. Sometimes I feel like I'm so adaptable and I'm still not keeping up with the pace of the way the market's changing too. There's less, of course, unfortunately, this pandemic also brought on less businesses with the ability to pay an attorney, even if they want to work on their contracts, or it usually only becomes an issue. Some are actually growing. I have some clients that have boomed, but I would say it's more like in the 40% range, 40, 45. The rest of them have had difficulties. About 20 to 25 have unfortunately either gone under or they're about to.
Right.
The others are just, they're holding on, so unless they got sued and they had to defend something, and even sometimes there's a consideration of whether or not they should defend it. Maybe it is if the business is going to go under, it probably doesn't make sense to spend $10,000 litigating something that you can't even finish the litigation because you'll run out of money and the business is going to go under anyways, or it might. You might contemplate, depending on looking at all the factors, right, that are relevant, of whether or not to defend it or not.
Yeah, I mean, the burn rate of money is really hugely important right now, especially like you said, if a litigation issue comes up, the question is, do I just close and take the money and run, or do I, yeah.
And even clients that might have like, well, I wanted to work on my employment agreements before, or even my client agreements, they're kind of like, you know what I mean? They're kind of stopping, going, wait, Reg, I'll come back. Because they also don't have that extra money. It's not an immediate, what I call a basic necessity in this second. You know what I mean? Hopefully it doesn't lead to a problem, right? Because you want to fix it for a reason, to avoid certain issues that might have happened. But some of my clients can avoid those issues. Sometimes they're like, Regina, this person is saying the contract wasn't so clear. I know we haven't had a chance to fix it yet, but it already happened, Regina. Sometimes they say, deal with it in a business manner. Just, okay, you know what, eat half the cost of it, or just do it this way. You know what I mean? I mean, like, take care of it in other ways. You don't always have to have a legal agreement that you fight on. Sometimes you can say, okay, client, you know what, you happened with you. Maybe this wasn't as clear. Let's split the difference, or I'll give it to you for free. Or, maybe you convert this client to a long-term client. Right. You know what, right, there was a mistake. I'm going to wipe it off your bill. Here's a 10% discount, and you get them to come back and spend more money. That's a business solution rather than a legal, let's fight it. I mean, at one point you should be thinking this way anyways as business owners sometimes, because I mean, it doesn't always make sense to fight legally. So, but it does make sense to fix contracts to be as strong or as clear as necessary, so that if it becomes an issue, you have a stronger position in court and it becomes its own sort of, it pushes back on the litigation, pushes back on someone bringing a lawsuit potentially, but that's more mid to long-term views. Right. So sometimes I'm having to just, a lot of my clients are dealing with those issues. They just don't have the same money anymore. So of course it affects the amount of business that are available potentially to pay legal fees, Right. So, it's tough, and families are in the same squeeze, so to speak. Sometimes they're going through divorces, and it's expensive to go through a divorce. And so, I try to encourage, other ways in which to resolve, family issues and difficulties. And sometimes people get mad. I mean, they're like, oh, then, you're just saying, give him what he wants, and it's like, no, I do with my teenager. I have to negotiate. I have to pick my battles. You know what I mean? Well, it's just like anything in life. And some things obviously you can't find a balance if it's a safety issue or something of dire need. Right. But I would never suggest a balance with the child's safety. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, fighting about like the extra $200 that you spend at a store. I mean, you're going to spend more money fighting with, talking to me than the $200. So sometimes it's just, I try to take a practical approach, but I can't always tell you people see that. So families also, either they can't afford to get divorced, or they do it another way, and they have to, I don't mind, I'll say do it pro se, but there's a little less money sometimes to be able for families to pay attorneys nowadays. So it's a little tighter even. Right. If you're seeing, maybe other people are seeing that. I do see that. I mean, other people have a certain amount of money. They do. I have still very high affluent clients that are actually booming. But I find the more middle income to lower income clients, they're having trouble. They're having difficulty. There's no question, you know.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. I mean, there's
you know,
lots of issues. I do agree, and you're seeing it from the business as well as the personal side. So, being
correct.
that
Yeah.
with the corporate law and family law, so you're seeing it completely the two different perspectives right away.
Yes,
Very,
correct.
very interesting. Well,
Yeah.
this is so if you were looking at so you've been in business for in your practice for over 10 years. Okay, so what advice would you give a new attorney starting out?
A new attorney starting out, I mean, if you're going on your own, if you're not working for another firm, right? I would say be very, very diligent and resourceful, be very customer service oriented. Okay. It does. That's a skill. Usually most attorneys don't think naturally, not that they're not thinking about the client, but you're not thinking about the personal side and how people sometimes want to be talked to or understanding their problems that they're going through on a human level, so to speak. And talk to other attorneys, look for referral sources. Initially it's going to be hard to get started, but it works. They're usually actually good sources to build relationships with. You might be doing it on a one-way street for a while. Might be you sending referrals if you can't take the cases. But that person often that you send referrals to, a lot of times they'll send something back your way that they think you might be able to handle. And, just get yourself very actively involved on understanding your area of law, what the market looks like, what kind of clients there are there, what works best. Do some research. If it's Facebook that works best, if it's YouTube, some other platforms, there might be legal platforms that concentrate on that particular information. You may want to market on that particular site. I'm not entirely discouraging you from Google Ads. It's just it might have to look. It's going to be a trial and error.
It's a testing issue, I believe. Yeah.
Correct, because I'm sure it still works for certain areas of law better and it is more cost effective, or certain. I know obviously certain keywords are going to be more cost effective. They may not have as much traffic, so it's a testing thing. But I strongly discourage someone from fully relying on Google, I guess is what I'm saying. You may have
It's like
luck.
all your eggs in one basket. So you want to, it's kind of like BNI groups. It's always good to have a networking group. You want to continue to network with the people you went to law school with. There's just so many ways of just keeping your network and you'll have multiple baskets to choose from. Yeah.
Correct, correct. And ultimately, if you do very good work, not everyone appreciates it because I can't see how many clients that I have a judge that, I mean, I have the opposing counsel. It's like, wow, Reg, I can't believe we got there. You did a great, I mean, there goes a counsel saying that I did a good job. My client's like, eh. And I'm like, you know what it is like sometimes it's context though. A client's
Yeah.
not always in a litigation, so they don't understand entirely, even though I try to do a good job explaining the pros and cons of litigation, contracts, different personalities, all these different things. They don't always understand how fragile and difficult and, getting results are. Everything's not black or white. So sometimes like it could be like a poof, because a jury you would not have been maybe sympathetic to a jury and I was worried about it or something. And I suggested an alternative, or let's try this, let's try that, because I'm looking overall from experience and understanding the law and the nuances of the law, the rules of evidence, all these things that sometimes clients are not going to be able to bring down to that level. So sometimes they have unrealistic expectations, although I try to set them from the beginning. Well, I wanted everything in the divorce. I wanted him out on the street and I wanted him to have nothing. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't work that way. He's got a right to the kids. And if he's good with the children, I mean, this is not about you. You know what I mean? That's also about the children, depending on the circumstances. So sometimes clients also just have, whether it's intentional or not, or just maybe from a lack of not understanding the full picture. Although I really, as an attorney, I suggest everyone always try to put your clients' feet on the ground at all times. When we puff things up too much, then the clients get very angry when they don't see that pie in the sky, that fantasy land sort of outcome, because it doesn't work that way. Right. So the best thing to do is do your best, do good work, be responsive. And that in of itself will hopefully turn into clients coming back to you, referring you clients also. And your name, you build a reputation. Exactly. That's one of the better things. And that's actually also a marketing thing. It's not just a professional thing for as an attorney. It's also a marketing tool. Your reputation. People don't see it that way, but I think from a business point of view, if you think of any brands, any people in general, reputation and quality is a big part of that from a business point of view. People just don't usually think about it in that way, but I think it is.
No, that's true. Well, I mean, if you look at Google reviews or you're searching for a divorce attorney and you find 4 that are near you, you're going to look at the reviews, the one with the most reviews. You're going to
Yes,
look and read those reviews and see what people are saying. And I think, like you're saying, customer expectations, if you set the expectations, you're going to get good reviews. You're going to get good outcomes because you have been realistic in setting those expectations and not the pie in the sky that you know
correct.
they're never going to get.
Correct. Sometimes I had clients that they actually they stepped in it quite badly, and then they come to me and they realize, oh, I didn't realize my contract said that. I owe them the money, and we get through it, but in a good way and the best possible way to mitigate the circumstances. They understood they may have made a mistake, and I get reviews from them, even though they had to eventually they were wrong, but I resolved in a reasonable way, try to mitigate cost, practical, and I get reviews from them. So it's not about I don't have a magic wand.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone gets to win because I don't have like a magic wand that I can say you're gonna win. I'm not. Clients come to you with the facts as they are. I can't change those facts. You know what I mean? So
Right.
sometimes like setting the expectations is important. It's very, very important.
Exactly. And keeping the emotion out of it. Like you said, the people's feet on the ground. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that would be my best. I know that's a long term. But to me, it's always is a matter of everything you do, you're building on previously. You do a good job, other attorneys are going to notice. I've gotten referrals from other attorneys, opposing counsels that I may even beat in another case. And then,
Really?
yes, I've gotten referrals. Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
I've actually had sometimes their clients come back to me, not for all for the same issue. It was a totally different issue. Regina, have this new business I'm starting, but I loved how meticulous you were. And I got them from
Wow.
literally the opposite side of the table. So you just don't know. That's why I say do your best. You're hard, work hard. I always find, by the way, it's hard to find nowadays in many cases. People that have that pride for their work ethic, for quality of work and everything else. So it will be rewarded. And I think that also will distinguish you from someone that doesn't.
True. You're right. I mean, that is hard to find in a lot of ways. Well,
Yeah.
this has been really interesting, and I love the advice, and I love hearing about your journey. If anyone in the group wanted to reach out to you, how would they go about reaching you?
Well, they're welcome to call the office. The number is 305 460 0145. If anyone else ever needs help, we also do co-counseling with other attorneys if they needed some help. It could be on discovery, it could be trial. And we also do special magistrate services. So if you have a case that's highly contentious, sometimes some of the ways to get through those cases is to hire, it's almost like a private judge to deal with some or all the issues that move the case along faster. So we also also offer those services as well if an attorney ever needs that. And then if you ever want to reach us, anyone can reach us by email and our social media, also accounts. And our email is info at the campbelllawgroup.com.
Okay, great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put that your contact information in the description of this video in the post, so people will be able to reach out to you. And I thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being here. And like I said, if anybody wants to reach you, they'll be able to find that in the description. And yeah, so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye.